Hello, and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host, Maverick Dren Zaria. This week, we are taking a look at the animated film Batman, Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes, another animated movie and another superhero movie because we haven't done enough of those apparently.
And another Batman movie. What does that make it? The ninth Batman movie we've
Oh
done?
geez, yeah, we've done so many Batman movies. Our first animated Batman movie, although Batman and Robin felt like a cartoon, so maybe not. This movie was released on December 25th, 1993.
Oh, so it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, people that year got Batman for Christmas. It would have made more sense for it to be Batman Returns, though, because
Yeah.
that one does actually take place during, during Christmas. And this was a spin-off of the Batman animated series.
Which I have mentioned before, I'm a pretty big fan of.
Yeah. It was originally going to be a direct-to-video movie, but they decided to put it out in theaters. Apparently they thought it was good enough for theaters. It cost $6 million and only made $5.6 million.
Yikes.
Box office flop, but did well on home video. A lot of people rented it.
That's good at least.
So I guess it eventually made its money back. It was the only animated Batman film to get a theatrical release until the Lego Batman movie over 20 years later.
Wow.
And because of the timing of this, I ended up rewatching both these movies the same day.
Really?
Yeah, that was what I was watching.
Was it just by chance, or?
It was because you wanted to push back the recording of it. So I was like watching this, then you sent me that text that you wanted to do the podcast of this the next day. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm watching Batman Mask the Phantasm today as well. It is very short. It's only 76 minutes long. I kind of forgot how short it was, actually.
It basically is just like almost like a two-part episode that you watch.
It is the same length as Hercules and Xena, the animated movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's the first animated superhero movie we've done and the shortest superhero movie we've done. It was directed by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm, which, if you've watched the show, those names should be a bit familiar.
Yeah.
One of the screenwriters was Michael Reeves, who wrote some Star Wars books. I was really surprised to learn this.
Huh. Which ones?
Darth Maul Shadowhunter and the Coruscant Knights trilogy. Those are the most famous ones. He co-wrote a Star Wars book that came out in 2013 called The Last Jedi.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was before, well,
yeah.
you know.
That's really weird.
Yeah. The other writers for this movie were people who worked on the show, Paul Dini and Alan Burnett. Again, if you've watched the show, those names should be somewhat familiar. The cast, which some of these appeared on the show.
Actually, real quick, before we get into the cast, one other person I want to point out is the composer for the music and for the score. So the composer is Shirley Walker, who is actually a returning composer for the podcast.
Yes.
She had also done work on True Lies and Escape from L.A. as composers.
Right. And I think she did... Did she do the music for the show, or...
I think she did. Yep, she did music for the show and for the Superman show, as well as the Spawn series. The Spawn animated series.
I forgot there was a... Yeah. It's probably better than the
but,
movie.
In addition to that, she's also a frequent collaborator of Danny Elfman and even worked with him on the Darkman and the 1989 Batman scores.
None of this surprises me, because the score felt very Danny Elfman-esque, in this.
Yeah.
And if you want some more familiar names from the show, the cast, Kevin Conroy, who was also in the show, he played Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Basically was the animated Batman for years.
Yeah.
Sadly passed away a couple of years ago, rest in peace. Mark Hamill, which that's a name we definitely know.
Apart from being everyone's favorite goody two-shoes Luke Skywalker, he's also the Joker.
Yeah, he played the Joker. Hey, he was a Jedi Master. Show some more respect. But yeah, he played the Joker in the Batman animated series. And he was also in the only movie better than Morbius, which is Quantum Quest, a Cassini Space Odyssey.
Oh, of course.
So we've had him on the podcast a lot, actually. Dana Delaney, which you might recognize her because she played Lois Lane in the Superman animated series.
Yep. It was interesting because I didn't know that before I watched it, and then when she came on, I was like, that sounds a lot like Lois from the Superman series.
I've never watched it, so I wouldn't have guessed that, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me, And she's also in Tombstone, apparently.
Huh.
Another returning name, Hart Bachner, who played Ellis in Die Hard.
Oh!
Hans, Bubby, I'm your White Knight. And he played Ethan in Supergirl.
Oh, that's right! It's weird how he keeps popping up.
And if you're wondering, he's more like Ellis than Ethan in this movie.
Yeah.
Stacy Keach, who was in Escape from L.A. So we've had him before.
Huh, who was he in Escape from L.A.?
Oh, he was like one of the guys that brings in Snake Plissken. He's the guy with the mustache.
Oh, okay. Oh, how could you leave this out? He also played Dr. Michaels in Children of the Corn 666, Isaac's Return.
Yeah, why would anybody leave out Children of the Corn 6? I mean, for Christ's sake. We got Abe Vigoda, who was in The Godfather.
That makes sense.
He was also famous for fake death hoaxes. Because people, would... or accidentally, people would, accidentally print newspapers saying, oh, Abe Vigoda's dead, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it got to the point where someone made a website with the sole purpose of informing people if Abe Vigoda was dead or not.
That's pretty good.
Unfortunately, that website and Abe Vigoda don't exist anymore, so... rest in peace. Dick Miller, who is in basically everything that Roger Corman or Joe Dante made. I mean, his filmography is like ridiculously long. I'm not even gonna go through it. You know, Gremlins, among other things. Like, he's literally been in like almost everything. I think he's in Chopping Mall, if I remember right.
I know he's in Terminator, apparently.
And Terminator, yeah. I think he's the guy that sells Arnold the guns.
Oh.
John P. Ryan. He's on a lot of stuff, including It's Alive. It's about a murderous baby. The Right Stuff, which is a really good movie, actually, about the NASA. Death Wish 4. Delta Force 2. So he was in several canon movies, one of which had Chuck Norris in it. Cerveza Cristal.
Cerveza Cristal. Something I would like to point out for the listeners at home is we are recording this in the middle of a thunderstorm.
I'm starting a new recording, for Christ's sake. Okay. I only got one more cast member to get through. Robert Costanzo, which he was in Die Hard 2. And he played the cop that gives McClane a parking ticket.
Oh. I never realized he was Harvey Bullock. Wow, okay.
So, initial thoughts. I'll let you start with this one, actually.
So, you know, it's no secret that I absolutely love the animated show that the movie is based on, or a part of, whatever you'd like to call it. But I had only actually ever seen this, like, I think 2 or 3 times as a kid. It's been a while since I last watched this. Going in, all I really remembered is that the Joker was in it, and the Batman was in it, and that the Phantasm looked cool. Watching through it again, it had a lot of the strengths that I think the show had going for it, which were its cast. I think the plots were pretty good, although I do have a few issues here and there with them. I think the animation's great, the music is great. That being said, I do have a few complaints, but overall I think it is like a fantastic and just a great animated Batman movie.
Okay. And we could talk about, like, later, like, maybe where it ranks among the other Batman movies we've done. But anyway, so I actually remember the first time I saw clips of this movie. As a kid, I watched Free Willy on VHS.
Okay.
And one of the trailers before it was for this movie, and I remember it used to scare me a bit. I don't remember if it was just the Phantasm looked creepy, or maybe the Joker just was kind of creepy to me. I don't know. And there's also a trailer for the Nutcracker Ballet that had Macaulay Culkin in it on the same VHS. So the first time I actually watched the movie would have been probably middle school. And I remember liking it, albeit not as much as the show. And honestly, at the time, I remember liking the Mr. Freeze animated movie a little bit more. Although I haven't seen that one in a while, so I don't remember if that one holds up or not. I think just at the time, I think this one was just too moody and slow, and I didn't appreciate it until later. Because apparently there's some people, they think this is like one of the best Batman movies.
Huh.
Or even the best, so at the time at least, to be compared to like the other Batman movies at the time. And I did go back and rewatch like episodes of the show. Like I'm familiar with the show. I've seen a lot of episodes of it. I was curious recently, like how well it held up. It's not a perfect show, but there are a lot of really good episodes. Like I like the one where Batman, like, he keeps having these, like, nightmares or something, and it turns out the Mad Hatter is, like, controlling him or something. I remember thinking
Oh,
that.
yeah, I remember that one.
I thought that episode was pretty good. But my favorite episodes were the ones with Two-Face. I actually think that's...
Those ones were done really well, especially the one where it introduces Two-Face.
I still think that's the best depiction of Two-Face that we've gotten so far.
I think I'd agree with that.
I also think Kevin Conroy is one of the better Batman depictions we've gotten so far.
I'll get into a little bit more of that, once we get into the episode. But I am going to front it by saying I think he is my favorite Batman.
Okay, yeah. I think it's a little hard for me to compare because it's voice work rather than, like, a physical performance. But I think he might be the best Batman, although I do think Christian Bale was a better Bruce Wayne, if that makes any sense.
Interesting.
So, And then, of course, you have Mark Hamill, who is a great depiction of the Joker.
And again, I know I just said this about two other characters from this, but Mark Hamill's Joker is my favorite Joker.
I think I still prefer Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson, but Mark Hamill, I will say, he definitely has the best Joker laugh.
Yeah, definitely.
No contest. Like, he for sure has the best laugh. But as for what I think of Mask of the Phantasm itself, I do think it's a good movie. It's not perfect. I think maybe my expectations were just a bit too high after watching the show. I don't know, but it's not my favorite Batman movie, but it is a good movie. And I'll get into more of why later. I think more people should see it if they haven't, because I feel like this one's not talked about as much as, some of the other ones. So
yeah.
So in the previous podcast, we established that you're Spider-Man.
Yes. Are you about to admit to something here?
And in the podcast, if you remember the podcast we did on the Caveman's Valentine, we established that I'm Joker, apparently. I don't know if you remember that. Because there was that intro, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, this movie is not accurate. Because it does not talk about society enough. Because we're living in a society, we're supposed to act in a civilized way. But anyway.
I'm so sad we never got the George Costanza Joker.
There was I don't know if you saw it, there was somebody did like an edit of the trail. Oh, you've seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really funny.
Oh my god, yeah, that's one of the funniest things. And it makes sense too, actually.
Yeah, it really does. I feel like George Costanza was always one bad day away from becoming the Joker.
So the story, the plot of this one is that Batman is Batman.
How insightful.
And Bruce Wayne, surprise, is also Batman. Okay. In all seriousness, watching this again, I was actually surprised the plot was kind of complicated.
Yeah, it was a lot more complicated than I was expecting going in.
But to boil it down to its bare elements, the ghost of Christmas future is killing criminals, and Batman is trying to figure out who the mysterious figure is. He also has flashbacks to his early days as Batman, and a romance that didn't go well. Also, the Joker is there.
That's pretty accurate, I'd say.
Everybody got that? Okay, so pros.
Should we start off with Kevin Conroy's performance?
Let's start with him. Yeah, that's a good place to start. Do you want to? You can start.
Yeah, so I think first we should start off with his performance as Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne actually plays a pretty big role in the movie overall, since it's a lot of like year one Batman stuff.
They really
So
do
a lot of
a good job of showing his like inner torment.
Yes.
Over like what he wants to do and what his parents wanted him to do. Because basically the whole time he's trying to decide if he wants to become a vigilante or if he wants to like get married and settle down, which is what
and have like a normal life, which is what his parents would have wanted from him.
Except his parents are dead, so he's not sure if he wants to fulfill their wishes or not, you know. And it carries over what I liked about the show, you know, where you do see a lot of the conflict between Batman trying to balance his private life, you know, and his superhero life as well.
And Conroy's performance during these scenes, it's honestly like I'm thinking specifically of the scene where he's at his parents' grave and it's raining. It's a pretty powerful voice performance.
Yeah. And he's still believable as Batman, too, because, like...
Yeah.
He has, like, 2 different voices he uses for both characters.
He kind of has, like, a higher-pitched, happier one when he's talking as Bruce, and then when he's Batman, it's, like, a bit deeper and a bit more gravelly.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, like, I do think Kevin Conroy is one of the better Batman actors, but I was kind of undecided between him and Christian Bale because, like I mentioned earlier, I think Conroy was a better Batman, but I think I liked Bale the most as Bruce Wayne.
So I can see that. I think I still prefer Conroy's Bruce Wayne. Just because he doesn't remind me as much of American Psycho when I'm watching it.
I guess, but, like, I don't know. I just kind of like the Howard Hughes angle they took with him, where he's just acting like this crazy rich dude and stuff. You know?
I mean, he still has, like, that playboy, like, personality to him in this one. Like, his introduction in this is when he's at a dinner party with, like, 3 different women at once.
True, yeah. A part of it might have also just been like, at least movie wise, I think Bale's maybe got a little more character development.
Yeah,
you can get a little more character development out of like 2.5 hour movies than in like a 1 hour.
Movie.
1 hour.
Yeah,
because the thing with most Batman actors for me is they usually get
one aspect right.
They get one of the 2 right. Like, Michael Keaton, I think, was a great Batman, but he was kind of awkward as Bruce Wayne, which maybe was on purpose, but I don't look at Michael Keaton and see Bruce Wayne. I see Michael Keaton, I guess.
Yeah.
And same with Robert Pattinson, come to think of it. I think he was really good as Batman, but his Bruce Wayne was just...
fantastic Batman, but he's a really weird and, like, emo Bruce Wayne.
Val Kilmer, I actually thought was a good Bruce Wayne, but I don't know if... I think he just looked silly. I don't know if maybe it was the script, but also he just looked kind of silly as Batman.
A little bit. Like, his lips were, like, really puffy.
Maybe it was the suit.
He was, like, in the costume.
Maybe it was the suit, too. It was kind of the same with Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck just did not look like he belonged in a Batman costume.
No! But I honestly do think he was an okay Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck.
He was okay as Bruce Wayne, yeah. Even if it was just like, I mean, it is Ben Affleck playing Bruce Wayne. And then George Clooney, he was like, I think he's the only one that just was bad as both. Like, he just sucked as both of them.
And he's the one they brought back for the Flash.
Maybe part of the problem is some of them just don't look like Batman or Bruce Wayne. Like George Clooney, again, you see George Clooney and you don't see Bruce Wayne or Batman. You just see George Clooney.
George Clooney.
It's just George Clooney putting on a Batman costume. And that might be why Kevin Conroy has a little more of an edge, is because he doesn't have, like... his looks don't get in the way of him playing Batman. It's just, he's just using his voice, you know, because it's animated. And then the animators can just draw him to look exactly like Bruce Wayne. And it's pretty easy to draw Bruce Wayne. I mean...
Yeah.
And he has, like... You don't see Batman have romances that often in these movies.
Yeah, that was kind of a unique plot point in this, is that a lot of it focused on his romance with this woman named Andrea.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of got one in Batman Returns with him and Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't going to go anywhere because, you know, she was Catwomaning around.
And then they tried to do it in Batman Begins a little bit.
Oh yeah, that wasn't very good. It was a better romance than that movie, that's for sure. But yeah, so here he falls in love with Mara Jade, or sorry, Andrea Beaumont, right? That's what her name is.
Yeah.
Sorry, they look kind of similar. My fault. And it kind of is like what happened in Batman Returns, where it's this romance that just can't happen for many reasons. Because if I remember right, what happens here is like her father got involved with like criminals.
And then he had to flee the country, and then she went with him, and so they had to call off their engagement. Which is ultimately what pushes Bruce over the edge into becoming Batman, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then they both end up becoming, becoming vigilantes, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like two vigilantes.
Yeah, because later in the movie she becomes the Phantasm.
Again, kind of like Batman Returns, you know, because Catwoman's a vigilante.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty depressing story, too. You kind of just feel bad for both of these two people. It was also interesting that this was a bit of a precursor to Batman Begins. Because we, like, see...
Give me a second, hold on, someone's knocking at my door.
Oh, son. Invite him in.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. We
Was it a pizza delivery?
No, there was a leak in our apartment, in our roof.
Oh no.
And so I had to do a quick check to make sure that there's not any water coming through my ceiling.
Okay.
Alright, everything's looking fine now, but once we're done, I'm gonna do a closer inspection. But that sucks.
I guess I'll know if you die from drowning or something.
Yeah, everything's trying to... We got tornadoes, we got thunder, and now the roof's leaking.
Why is everything trying to kill us? Like,
I don't know.
do the movie gods not want us to review this or something?
It might be. That's what it's sounding like right now. Because what? We are an hour and 20 minutes in to this.
Are we really that far into this? Jesus.
Well, so we've been recording for about 40, but we met at 6.
Okay, anyway, let's keep going.
Anyway, yeah, sorry about that.
So, tragic romances. Why does this one work?
I think it works because there is a bit of emotional weight to it. The way it develops, I think, feels a bit more natural. than in something like, Willow.
Yeah, where they like hate each other and then they like each other for some reason.
Because they meet in the graveyard and they sort of bond over initially the fact that they both have dead parents that they were coming to see. And then it blossoms from there, but it's also interesting because you see Bruce sort of struggling with his feelings of, do I want to be a vigilante, which feels good for me and feels like I'm changing things, or do I want to live the life my parents wanted me to live and settle down with this, nice woman who's been by my side basically since I met her. It just feels a lot more natural, and it helps that the dialogue and the writing is pretty solid, I think.
And the voice acting for them was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
And it was also kind of interesting that, well, I guess we kind of gave away the twist, but she is the Phantasm.
Yes.
Apparently, the Phantasm was an original character created for this movie, which kind of surprised me.
That's happened a couple times with this show, because Harley Quinn came from the show originally.
Which I didn't know that until, recently. And I do like the design of the Phantasm, how he looks like...
Oh, yeah.
Has a male voice, though. Looks like the Grim Reaper with a knife hand.
Yeah. Just a very imposing figure. And it's also just an interesting idea for a villain to have, essentially someone else who's doing what Batman does, but is just a bit more over the edge with it and actually killing people.
And also just disappears randomly with smoke and
it's almost like Batman is seeing what other people think of when they see Batman.
I guess, yeah. I'll get into that later, but people keep mistaking the Phantasm for Batman.
Yeah.
And when I first saw this, I was surprised by the twist of who the Phantasm's identity was. So
yeah.
I'll give him that. I wasn't expecting the Phantasm to be Andrea Beaumont. So I just remember watching the movie and being like, "Why are we spending so much time on this romance? This is weird." Whereas now, I get more of the plot reasons for why they did that. You know?
Yeah.
And the voice of the Phantasm is pretty ominous.
It is really cool.
I think it was Stacy Keach that did the voice of the
yeah, it was
Phantasm, and just shows up, says something like your angel of death.
Your angel of death has arrived.
Just goes around killing all these criminals and stuff. Again, kind of doing what Batman does, except Batman doesn't kill in the animated series. So
yeah.
So they're...
And it is also sort of what Alfred mentions. He basically states it outright, saying that the Phantasm is what I feared that you would become if you went down this path, basically.
Yeah, he could have, he could have went on and become a vigilante for selfish reasons instead of doing things for the good of Gotham,
Yeah. And since I just mentioned him, can we talk about him for a second? Good old Alfred.
Okay. There was one.
Because he's not in the movie too much.
There was one funny part with him. I thought that I was gonna bring up where he where is this? Shit.
I think I know what line you're about to say.
I don't remember. It wasn't a line, but it was just... He walks in on Bruce and Andrea kissing with some... He's gonna bring him some food and drinks, but then he sees them kissing and just leaves immediately. I thought that was pretty funny.
I was gonna bring up the line where he tells Bruce, "Why, you're the very model of sanity. Oh, by the way, I pressed your tights and put away your exploding gas balls." We don't get a whole lot of him in this movie, but it's the same characterization as the show, and he's just a fun Alfred, I think.
He serves his purpose, you know, he's there for some, like, dry British humor, but also he has his moments where he, like, comforts Bruce in his times of, like, need, you know?
And I think it's interesting, he talks back to Bruce at one point in this, which we don't really see from most Alfreds in the movies.
Yeah, Michael Caine, off the top of my head, is the only other one that I can think of that does.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
Are you getting more tornado alarms? This has been a nightmare of a recording session.
Okay, so Madam Web. No, I'm kidding. So the start of the Star Wars expanded universe began with the Thrawn trilogy. Oh, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
Yes, there we go.
Okay. I was about to say one character we haven't talked about yet, surprisingly, is the Joker.
Yes, let's talk about the Joker.
So we got Mark Hamill playing the Joker, which I remember being shocked when I found out that Luke Skywalker did the voice of the Joker.
I know, it's like you wouldn't expect that the guy that played Luke Skywalker would end up being.
Yeah, because he's like one of the greatest heroes, like, of all time.
Yeah.
And then here he's playing, like, one of the most flamboyant villains of all time. Just a complete psychopath, basically. And he does both of these roles so well, too, which is impressive.
Yeah. It's... his Joker... His Joker portrayal, it's like equal parts hilarious but terrifying, which works just so well.
He's definitely more like the classic, like... Joker depiction we usually get. So, like, he's more in the vein of, like, say, Cesar Romero, or... He's kind of an in-between, Cesar Romero and, like, Jack Nicholson, because he's a little bit darker than Cesar Romero, but he's not quite as dark as Jack Nicholson.
I'm sorry. Give me another second. There's more knocking. I'm sorry. Give me a second.
You son of a bitch.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
All right, sorry. It was just someone else making sure that I knew. Anyway, sorry. Back to the Joker.
I do love that clip of Mark Hamill, like, pretending to be the Joker talking to Luke Skywalker. That's really funny.
Luke, it's me! The Clown Prince of Crime! And also your father. No, that's not true! That's impossible! Get used to it, kiddo.
But I did feel like the Joker did feel kind of out of place in the story of this movie.
But when we get to the cons, I was going to talk about that a bit more, because that probably is my biggest con with the thing, is that he feels a little stapled on, but it's nice to see him.
It's fun seeing it, you know, because, I mean, the Joker's always fun to watch. Well, except in Suicide Squad. What I liked about Mark Hamill's Joker is that he just fully embraced the clown aspect of the Joker.
Yeah,
he's just
100%.
So unrepentantly silly and joyful that he's just impossible to hate just because he looks like he's having so much fun. Even when he's doing just atrocious
horrible
things to people.
Things. like murdering people and giving them like a permanent smile on their face, or causing them to just like giving themselves like the Joker toxin or whatever it was.
And yet he still pays his taxes, apparently.
Yes, and if I don't pay up, I'll go to jail for tax evasion. I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
So I also like his design in this and in early on in the animated series, where it's sort of like that classic gangster suit but in like purple, and then like the yellow eyes and the yellow teeth.
I mean, it's the classic Joker design, it's like the makeup and the red lips. So he looks like, you pull a Joker card like out of a deck, that might be in there. And I find it funny.
Something else interesting.
I find it funny that the Joker lives in a broken down amusement park in this movie.
With a bunch of robots everywhere.
Yeah, he has like an animatronic wife or something. Sorry, were you saying anything?
Yeah, I was about to say, did you... I don't know if you noticed, but he has kind of like broad shoulders in the animated series, like that earlier design of his.
Yeah.
Like he's like a big Joker.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned it earlier, but his laugh is just phenomenal.
He gets a great laugh like at the end of the movie, like right before Andrea, quote unquote, kills him and then disappears. That part always kind of confused me a bit, where they like disappear and missed. Oh, it turns out she's still alive. I mean, I guess he survived, because, I mean, he appears in later episodes of the shows.
Yeah. He doesn't die until the flashback we see in the Batman Beyond movie.
Oh. It's been a while since Batman Beyond, honestly.
That Batman Beyond, the Return of the Joker movie is actually pretty good.
I remember the show being pretty good.
It's very dark, though.
The movie, I barely remember, but I remember it being pretty messed up, because doesn't he turn, like, Jason Todd into a Joker or something?
Into the Joker. Yeah, and he, like, tortures him.
That was creepy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty dark.
It's not quite as dark as Batman Under the Red Hood, from what I remember, though.
Yeah.
Or there's, like, The Killing Joke, which... We could review the adaptation of The Killing Joke at some point if we want to. It's not very good, but it's an idea. And also, the Joker gets pretty beat up at the end, too.
Yeah, he's, like, missing several teeth by the end of the fight.
He's got, like, blood on him, because what happened is he's the one that... He killed Andrea's dad, right?
Yeah.
Which that's another thing about the Joker, is, like, in live action, he's, like, terrifying, but, like, when he's in, like, animated form, he kind of just fits in pretty well, just because he's such a cartoonish character.
Yeah,
that's what we like about
character.
the Joker, is, like, how much of a contrast he is from Batman, because Batman is super serious and dark and brooding, and then the Joker is, like, so, like, just
he's like colorful and he's laughing.
Yeah. And yet one of them's the bad guy and one of them isn't, Oh, and speaking of cartoons, Bugs Bunny appears in the logos at the beginning.
Oh, that's right, he does.
Which I just realized that means this is our first Warner Brothers cartoon.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, the animation. We should talk about the animation.
I love the style of the movie and, by extension, the show. It's got, like, this sort of, like, comic noir vibe to it, where like all the guys like super broad-shouldered, simple faces. They're all wearing like trench coats and those hats, like fedoras.
It feels like you could have just taken this out of like the old like 30s and 40s Batman comics, basically, you know, or like do a bit of like recoloring. Maybe it could be a 30s or 40s gangster movie, you know, like like I could totally see like Edward G. Robinson or James Cagney running around in this setting. 'Cause lots of dark alleys, you know, old mansions. It's the ridiculously
it really
tall
fits the Batman
skyscrapers.
vibe. Yeah.
And rooms with curtains. Again, it's a film noir, basically, or something like that, you know? And because it's a movie, they had a bigger budget than the show did, so they were able to do a little more here. Like, actually, the intro of this, like the opening credits, that's actually CGI.
Yeah, I know. So it was sort of like a 3D-ish thing, which was kind of an interesting view, yeah.
And there's a lot of good Batman imagery in this, too. Like, one part I really liked was when you, like, see him, like, in shadow putting the mask on.
And also, when he's, like, putting on the costume for the first time and Alfred sees him, it does, like, that close-up
That was
shot of him.
I think that was the one I was talking about, yeah.
Oh, okay. Also, when Andrea comes home to her apartment, and it's pitch black, and she turns on the light, and Batman's just standing right next to it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That kind of made me laugh. Just because, I mean, yeah, that would be kind of scary, just coming home and Batman's there, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what she says to him,
one scene in an episode. It was something like, haven't you, like, learned how to knock or something snarky like that, I think.
Sorry, what were you saying?
There was an episode of the animated show where Batman's just, like, digging around in some dark room in a mansion.
Oh,
and,
I
like,
think I know what you're talking about.
Opens the door, sees him, and just closes it and pretends like he saw nothing.
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty funny. Because again, you see Batman in a dark room. I mean,
it's just like, nope.
You should probably just move on. I mean,
just go home for the day.
It kind of reminds me. I guess you have to be insane to take on Batman, which is why he goes up against the Joker so much, because the Joker's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
I also liked when you see, like, the bats, like, flying everywhere after Bruce kisses Andrea. I thought that was a good shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Batman Begins, which... Quite a bit of this reminded me of Batman Begins, actually.
I think it is because it weaves in sort of, like, ideas from the Batman Year One.
It's kind of the origin story, you know.
Yeah.
Because we see his, like, early attempts of being Batman. Like, he has a black jacket and burglar mask. Which is kind of like the Incredibles,
and no one's really
actually.
afraid of him.
That's kind of like what happens in the Incredibles.
Yeah, actually.
I guess this was his...
do that at some point.
Because he's wearing a black jacket, a burglar mask. I guess this was his human bat phase. Like, is he gonna go fight Bonesaw or something?
I do like how nobody was afraid of him when he first jumped in.
Yeah, I found that interesting, like, because he's, like, talking to Alfred later, and he's disappointed that they didn't find him scary. Because he wants to scare his enemies. I guess wearing a burglar mask and knowing jujitsu isn't enough, so... Which was another thing I liked. I liked seeing Batman, like, doing... Or Bruce Wayne, he's, like, practicing jujitsu.
Something else that I noticed.
The music was also pretty good, I thought.
The music is fantastic. It helps that you had someone who had worked with Danny Elfman on his Batman film scores before.
Because there were parts of it that kind of sounded like the '89 film. It definitely sounded like the show. Like, it felt like I was watching the show.
Yes.
You know, it captures the moody, ominous tone that you would expect a Batman movie to have, and then also the exciting, bombastic action you would expect a Batman movie to have. There was one part where the music sort of sounded like The Godfather.
Was it during one of the scenes with the mob?
It was like right before the flashback happens. It like kind of sounded like The Godfather a little bit. And yeah, obviously having like gangsters in it, yeah, I mean it's kind of gonna give off the vibe of The Godfather. And because it's a movie, there's a little more room to tell a story than in a 20-minute episode.
Yes.
Because that was actually one of my problems
Like
with
I
the
said,
show.
it feels like it's a multi-part episode.
That was actually one of my problems with the show. I was gonna mention it was very good, but often I would be watching an episode and I would think that ended a little too quickly for me. But
yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah,
I'd be like, just as it seems to be getting going, and then it's just over. I'm like, oh well, okay. Like the Bane one, especially, like that one really ended too abruptly.
I feel like a lot of the Bane, I feel like Bane's kind of pushed off to the side in the show for the most part. He's not really like a major villain.
Bruce Wayne and Andrea Beaumont, go to Epcot at one point.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Tell me, is that not Epcot?
That's pretty much Epcot.
It's like this amusement park that's a futuristic city. I mean, it looks like Epcot. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. Of course, you got like Hart Bachner as the sleazebag again. He's just always playing sleazebags, I guess.
Yeah.
Arthur Reeves is his character's name in this. There's one guy that was sort of dressed like Bison. Or the hat and the coat looked similar, except it was like black instead of red.
Oh, yeah.
It was the part where the guy was getting mugged and then Bruce Wayne stopped him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say the other voice actors were pretty well cast. I mean, of course, Abe Vigoda plays a gangster in it. I mean, he was in The Godfather. Who else would he play? Do you have anything else to add before the cons, or?
So I think the last thing I want to mention is there was one action scene that we didn't really talk about that I did like, and it was when the Phantasm is confronting what was his name, Buzz Bronski, at the graveyard.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good one, and I do like the end of it, how the Phantasm basically chased Buzz into his own grave and then shoved a giant angel statue on top of him.
Oh my god, so he kind of is the Phantasm kind of is the ghost of Christmas future. Because there's some versions of that character where he like pushes Scrooge into his own grave, including the Mickey Mouse version, which is what? Okay. Where he's played by Scrooge McDuck, obviously. Who else is gonna play Scrooge?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it really does have just kind of this ominous, creepy tone to parts of it, especially when the Phantasm shows up. So
yeah.
Now cons. I think my biggest con for this is that the Joker doesn't send out Gelman ghosts to attack Batman.
That's what was missing.
Like my favorite Mark
100%.
Hamill villain. What was his character's name in Quantum Quest again? Was it like the Void or something?
He was like Lord Void or something.
The Void.
I have to look this up. Oh, it was just Void, I guess.
Okay, whatever. But yeah, getting to the actual. I don't understand why people mistake the Phantasm for Batman.
I kind of can, because only 20 people see the Phantasm, and all they say is that it's a tall person dressed in all black wearing a mask. It's the middle of the night, so they can't see very well.
But they don't really look alike. Like, I don't know. It's just
that's fair, but they're not really seeing him up close.
I was
feel.
just
I feel
always
it's
kind of
easy to mistake
confused. But
him.
even when the Phantasm first shows up, they're the people that he's attacking, or she. Sorry, I keep fucking that up. The people the Phantasm is attacking keep mistaking the Phantasm for Batman.
I feel like that one can be explained just because it's the first time the Phantasm shows up. And so I feel like you see someone dressed in all black taking down everyone, you're probably just gonna assume that it's Batman.
Again, maybe it is just me nitpicking, but it just never it didn't make sense to me. I guess maybe they could have provided a better explanation. Now the plot structure of this was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, and I think that was my biggest problem, was the plot structure.
The actual premise isn't bad, but it just flowed in a weird way. It's hard to explain for me.
I think part of it was because the first half of the movie is all about the mystery of the Phantasm revisiting Batman from year one. And then all of a sudden, the Joker just becomes the main bad guy.
But also, they needed to establish Andrea as a main character, too, and her relationship with Bruce Wayne. Maybe I think they were just trying to do too much with a short runtime. Maybe that was it.
I think so, yeah. And it almost feels like they wanted to do a film about this Phantasm character, and then someone at a studio said it has to have the Joker in it.
And also, it has to kind of be Batman Year One as well. So yeah, it was just. I think it was just this. I don't know, something with the script. I don't know, but it just felt kind of unfocused. And yeah, like you said, the Joker really is just shoehorned into this movie.
Yeah, as much as I love the Mark Hamill Joker, he didn't really belong in here, and he especially didn't really need to be elevated to the main bad guy.
He also affects the tone of the movie too, because the movie's
pretty significantly. It changes very drastically once he shows up.
If the movie just becomes a lot sillier once he shows up, because before that,
then there's his robot wife shows up, and then.
And it was also just, I remember when I first saw this, I wasn't expecting the Joker to be in it either, because he's not on the posters.
Yeah.
It's just the Phantasm and stuff. Yeah, the DVD, let me look at the DVD cover of this thing. Yeah, he's not even on I guess he's on one of them. On the back. But anyway. But yeah, you just don't expect the Joker to show up in this, and then he does, and you're just okay, wait, who's the villain in this again?
Hang on. Is this the first movie? Is this the first Batman movie where we don't go and then Batman shows up? And then the Joker shows up?
Yeah, it is very much that. Yeah, it's more just, and then the Joker shows up. And it's so abrupt, too. He doesn't show up until, halfway into the movie. Because he's not in the first half of the movie. He doesn't show up until that one gangster just goes to talk to him. He's trying to hire. I think he's trying to hire somebody to kill Batman for him or something. So he decides to hire the Joker. Okay. And the Joker's just living at this abandoned amusement park for some. I think he does that in the show too, though, doesn't he?
I think so. He's just in some, but it's a different amusement park.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the Joker is gonna live anywhere, yeah, that's probably where he would be. Because there's that one episode where he's trying to get that kid to commit crimes with him.
Yeah.
where he's pretending to be like a birthday clown or something. Or there's that poor dude Charlie that he tries to rope into his schemes.
That's such a great episode.
The theme song for that episode gets stuck in my head so often just because it fits the Joker so well. But yeah, he really is just like shoehorned into this movie. Like,
Yeah.
I guess because they needed an actual villain that wasn't like, because Andrea, like, she's not a villain per se. She's just you know, she's just going about things the wrong way. So they needed like an irredeemable character in there as well.
Yeah, so they threw in the Joker.
And I feel like the characters in this, I feel like most of them were just kind of there.
Did you have anything else?
Aside from Batman, Andrea, and the Joker, the other characters just kind of felt like kind of bland, I guess. I don't know. Like,
that is fair. A lot of the gangster characters were just gangster characters with nothing else really going on.
Sorry, are you still there?
Yeah. I was just saying that a lot of the... Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, cool, my internet is failing. Hang on. Why is my internet failing? Whoa, my internet is really failing.
Great. Just great. We are up to our neck in technical difficulties today, aren't we?
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, the internet completely like died for 5 minutes. Okay, anyway, to continue the point that we were on before I died. I do. Recording is fine.
I need to start another recording. Give me a second. Son of a bitch.
This is like the most cursed episode we've done.
Okay, where was I?
Okay, so you were talking about how a lot of the secondary characters just weren't too interesting, especially those gangsters. And I agree, because they're very much just generic gangsters. They're not really interesting beyond
They're
that.
not exactly a Falcone, I guess.
Yeah.
Or,
And I'd say that the most interesting part about him is that we learn that the Joker, before he was the Joker, used to be part of their gang, but that's really all that stands out.
yeah, but, like, I mean, that's like most depictions of the Joker, is that he was a gangster at one point. Even the 89 Batman movie had that, you know. So, yeah. Because Batman and Andrea, they get a decent amount of character development.
Yeah.
And the Joker, I mean, he doesn't get a lot of character development, but he's the Joker, so he doesn't need that.
You don't really
all the
need
time.
character development for the Joker.
He's kind of just his own personality, you know?
Yeah.
You kind of just know what his deal is, you know, where he's a criminal, but he likes doing things with a smile, I guess.
Yeah.
It's also not a very action-packed movie.
No, there's only a couple of big action scenes, and a lot of them are during the year one segments.
Which that might have been why I didn't like this as much when I first saw it, because I was expecting a little more action for a Batman movie, and most of it's like kind of slow, and it's like a romance as well too, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of think of it, maybe it would have worked better as a 2-part episode
I think it might have.
than as a feature-length movie. I don't know.
Although I will say, from what I remember, I think the other animated movies that come after this, I think most of them get the balance a little bit better.
Yeah, because if, like I said earlier, I remembered liking the Mr. Freeze movie more than this one. Granted, it has been years since I saw that one, so and I remember liking Batman Under the Red Hood a lot as well. What was the name of the Freeze movie again? Sub-Zero, yeah.
So,
Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. Yeah, we might have to do that one at some point.
That one was really good from what I remember.
I barely remember it. It's also really short. It's 66 minutes.
Yeah. Ooh, that's even shorter. How long is the Return of the Joker, the Batman Beyond movie?
Oh, let me look. Probably like 80 minutes, right? It's like 73. Well,
74-ish.
okay, there's two versions of it, but both of them are less than 80
yeah.
minutes.
So they're about the same length as this.
Very short movies.
Phantasm.
I also forgot most of the dialogue from this movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely more of like a visual and plot exercise than a dialogue exercise.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully, the visuals are really good, and the plot, while not perfect, it's a decent premise.
It's still,
at least.
Yeah.
Another comment I have. Arnold doesn't get any ice puns in this.
That's always the downside in any Batman movie without Mr. Freeze. That better be the new Batman movies that are coming out better have Mr. Freeze as a villain.
Yeah. I remember, like, at the Oscars, like, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger were there, and they were heckling Michael Keaton, which I thought that was funny.
That was pretty good.
So, do you have anything else to add, or?
I think that's it. I think that covered everything.
I kind of just want to wrap this up before something else goes wrong. So.
Yeah, before my computer explodes or something.
Oh shit! I'm getting a virus. Okay.
Oh no! The Taliban hacked my computer.
Taliban, yeah. The Taliban's the worst. Great heroin, though. Okay. So,
anyway, overall thoughts.
Do you want to? You can start with this one.
Yeah. So there are a couple problems, like I mentioned. I think that the Joker being added in feels a bit weird, feels a bit not completely thought through. But I think beyond that, I think it's a very visually striking movie. And again, I just love the versions of these characters that we see. I love this version of Batman. I love this version of Joker. I love this version of Alfred. Fantastic voice actors, and just fantastic movies. It's, if you have an hour and 15 minutes to squeeze this in, I would highly recommend it still, I think.
Yeah. Is that it, or?
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a good movie. It's not a perfect movie. The animation was really good voice acting, especially from, of course, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Music was good. It's a pretty serious plot, which you wouldn't expect. It explores Batman's psychology. I always like that. Certainly gives you more to chew on than Batman Forever or Batman and Robin.
Yes. It's interesting that the cartoon Batman movie felt less cartoony than two of the live-action films.
That is a very good point, yes. The plot and writing had its problems, but overall, I'd say if you like Batman the Animated Series, watch it. I mean, you probably have, but...
Yeah.
Or if you just like Batman, I mean, it's worth seeing. I would say if I was going to compare this to the other Batman movies, I don't think it's as good as Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. Let me think about this for a second. It's definitely... I enjoy it more than The Batman. It's definitely better than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I'm trying to think about this. It's probably somewhere around where, like, Dark Knight Rises or Batman Returns are for me.
I think I would put it around... I think I'd put it maybe just underneath Rises.
Okay. And maybe a little bit below... Maybe a little below the 89 Batman. Kind of near there, but, like, you know... like, it's a pretty good Batman movie, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one of the better animated movies we've done on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a lot better than Hercules and Xena.
It's better than we did 2 animated Mario movies on this podcast. Yeah. Its only real competition is the Russian Treasure Island movie, and honestly, that one might still be the winner for best animated movie.
It's hard to top Russian Treasure Island.
Just because that movie was so...
just insane.
Yeah, and just unique. Like, that... It's kind of hard to compare to that, though, just because that movie is such a unique artifact, you know? Like, just... Would this technically count as a spin-off movie?
Maybe technically.
Because that would make it one of the better spin-off movies we've done.
That is true.
So, yeah, I ran out of notes.
Well, join us next time where we watch a thing. Maybe even 2 things.
Hopefully it's not as much of a fuck fest as this recording was.
Yeah, hopefully we can get it recorded.
It's
anyway.
Thing from Another World and the thing... Oh, yeah. This is we're doing another 2 movies enter thing. So it's like a review, but we're comparing the 2 movies to each other to decide which thing is the best thing, I guess. That's not like from Fantastic Four, I guess.
Yeah.
Imagine that, John Carpenter's The Thing, but
it's... Thing from the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that would... yeah. It, like, turns into a dog, so the dog is, like, shouting, "It's clobbering time!"
Roll the Andy Griffith.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.